Hello? Whoa. Good. All right, so we're going to get started. Let's see. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Friday, June 24. And we're excited to be here. We're excited for the people online, where you're watching now and watching later. If you are reading, don't worry about the camera. You can barely see it. It has a little white light on it. It might it's really tiny, but it might look really huge. Just focus on the people's faces, the real people. And today we have some cool announcements. I'll try to announce it later on. It's these, but I'll give you the details later. We have a cool lineup as always. I'm excited. Some new people, some regular people, some familiar faces, some strange faces. I hope everybody's happy, healthy, and warm. We are excited to have the community with us. We're excited to have new friends and make friends. It's really cool to be here. It's a cool space. And as always, I'll get us started. This is called Who Ain't I Seen With? For fighting day and day and day, then wake up and stop, drop out. It's not done, start again. Tell me what my skin means. My brown eyes see just as clear as the green ones. And the blue ones are pretty, but pretty is fucking useless. Rip the calluses off hands and soft feet sitting in cute little beds and down blankets made from the skeletons of broken bones of children labored by daddy's dreams and the alcohol in mommy's blood. Sets mine on fire. Let's fight and pull at each other till we can't walk, till we can't stand, when the only thing we think about is handing off the blame, the way shoulders shrug and shake. If there's something better somewhere, stand up and take it, extend the hands and shake them. If there's something missing, then make it. What is there to be afraid of? The status quo don't mean a damn thing. Take that beer, pound shots. I gotta teach you how to drink whiskey, pound shots. Wake up, walk to work, write books, sell out, shave, don't shave. They say stop, but don't. Press up against my skull, line it up, it won't travel, but my brains will make waves. Tying a noose is easy. You just gotta try. So stay tuned for cool announcements. I'll give you a little sneak peek again. Our first speaker is Alberto.
Good evening. If anyone knows where that reference is from, you're a real one. So, before I start, something important I want to mention before getting into my poems, and something that happened today, and where the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. And I want to mention this, that yes, it doesn't really have anything to do with me as a man, but this is stripping away the rights of women to choose. This isn't something about morality, it's about human rights and being free to do what you want. What I encourage all of you to do here is let your government officials know that you're fucking pissed. Let them know that you don't want your freedoms to be stripped away, because this law was passed 50 years ago. What happened a couple years ago? Gay marriage was legalized. You don't think they're gonna try and take away that? Go and protest. Let your fucking legislature know that you're pissed. Thank you. Now, okay. Anyway, so I wrote this one. It's called Those Shoes. Let's see, right? All right, it's called Those Shoes. When I was a kid, I'd always see a pair of shoes dangling from a telephone wire. It always seemed weird to me. I thought it was someone lost their shoes, or some jefita got so mad at them. She threw. My friend had this. People that lost and tagged would throw their shoes up as a sign that they lost. I guess that made sense to me. As I got older, I didn't see it messed often. He started wearing a baseball hat from a different city, and I'd rarely see him at school until one day I didn't. I went to his house one day, and a lot of people were holding candles of La Virgen Guadalupe with the white t-shirt that had his face on it. I then see his brother throw Ernesto's favorite pair of Cortezes on the wire. That was it. Fun fact about Cortezes, they were actually named after Hernan Cortez. It's kind of ironic how we hate colonizers, but I'm wearing them right now, so it's a little weird. But speaking of that transition, this next poem called Swing in September kind of talks about that. Back and forth as I feel the breeze on me, the swing is where I bring all my thoughts to be at one. As I fly up in the air, hold tight to the chains of the swing, I remember that it's the 15th of September, the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, my favorite time to say Chicano power. Listening to Carlos Santana empowers me. The relaxing sound of his guitar makes it so smooth. Downfall of the Mexica. I started to put my feet on the wood chips to stop. It's the reason why I love to swing so much. That was it. So, yeah. I don't want to go into full details about that. I can be here for a while. So, this next poem is called Don't Say Cheese. I never like smiling when it comes to family pictures, or even on school picture day. I'd always hear the photographer say cheese, I'd give a smirk, but is that even a smile? When fighting got more common when I got older, I needed to put my fist up and defend myself. With the weekly fights behind the school gym, my face would never fail to be punched. A scar would eventually take place on my face. The day I turned 12 and celebrated with my family, my mom brought out her camera to take a picture with my sister. She said, "Smile big for your special day." Looking at the picture, my sister had a perfect smile. Meanwhile, my scar was there, looking back at me. That was that. Yeah, I don't really like smiling, if you noticed, but you kind of learn to live with that. Now, this next one is called Moving Pictures, and no, it's not about the Rush album. It's a very good album if you haven't heard it. They say the older you are, the more likely your memories fade away. Those that always stay are the ones I'm always trying to run away from. I can't remember when I fell in love with music, or why Spider-Man is my still favorite superhero. But I do remember being beat with a baseball bat. The night skyline turned bright as I fell onto the ground. Or the time when I crossed out a rival's tagging on the wall. I was only 12 trying to get recruited by my big brother. Impactful moments like these will never leave me. They play an important role for who I became. There's no point in running away from these memories. Without them, I wouldn't have learned. The feeling of the scar from the baseball bat reminds me to not escalate arguments. Being bailed out from the station, seeing my jefita cry, reminded me of the last place I want to put her in. Looking back at these memories, I'm forever in debt for all of them. And that was that. Shout out Professor Mejia, take his class.
Thank you, Alberto. For everybody, when you're watching later, the audio is kind of weird there, not here, so we had to take care of that, but we're back. So, a year ago, we had our first, or maybe more than a year ago, we had our first book prizes, and it's a novel and a poetry and prose prize that we kind of put out into the world, and we were reading a lot of submissions. It was really cool. And over the last year, almost to the day, we've been editing, formatting, working with the authors, looking at a million different proofs. If you want to talk to me about the process, it's frustrating. It's awesome. It's like a hate, love kind of relationship because you hate it. And then, oh, this is really cool. I got a formatted book and it looks awesome. And then the next day it looks stupid because you put one line somewhere and it ruined 1,000 other pages. But it worked out. We finally have the release dates, and the poetry book comes out on September 15th. And the novel comes out on August 9th. If you want to get the pre-sale information, all the cool first to know information, sign up on our website, www.nervousghostpress.org. You can connect with us in all of our social medias. It should pop up on the screen. It's really cool doing all this stuff like magic. And with the newsletter, I only send about 1 or 2 a month, probably less. I don't know how it could be less, but I think it is. But it'll be all the information, the readings, the signings in East Coast, West Coast. I don't know about the no coast yet, but we're trying. But again, poetry and prose, read them. It's going to be really cool. I'll post about it and email us if you have any questions. I always answer. Next is Lorena.
All right, so this first one, it's kind of a work in progress. This is the working title, U.S. Citizenship, Bureaucracy of Life and Death. The paperwork is all in. has been for more than a decade, more than 15, even 20 years longer than the US government states as a processing time. Long enough to jump from warehouse to warehouse and sweatshop to sweatshop, to pay taxes every year. Long enough to learn Skype, FaceTime, and Zoom, to see your aging mother, so difficult to leave her behind in Michoacan. Long enough to log in to watch her last few bedridden days. Long enough to see your American citizen siblings by her side. Long enough to log in to watch her funeral from over 1,500 miles away. Long enough, longer even than the US government states as a processing time. And then this last one's actually being published in the next issue of Milestone, which is going to be coming out later this year. Is that correct? In the fall? Cool. So this one's titled Finding Refuge in Dorothy's Place in Salinas. Loud voices and a hearty laugh echo in the teal room with the black and white checkered floor, where we find refuge from the afternoon's sweltering Central Valley sun. Terry, in his beaten up, oversized leather jacket, talks all day about his sunflowers and vegetables in the garden on the corner lot. Bob and Dwayne are calling you over for another game of dominoes. Both men with peppered mustaches are rolling their cigarettes on the black folding table. Rosemary has sunk into the fraying armchair and is mumbling, running her fingers through her beautifully gray strands. Today she wishes you a good morning. Today, you are in charge of the shower list. In the teal room, you are yelling out a man's name and nobody pays you any attention. So you walk outside and keep yelling. Walking past the makeshift tents of blue tarps and bed sheets on the sidewalks. Still yelling, you walk into the lots, barren but for tufts of overgrown weeds and the discarded needles and potato chip bags that glitter in the California sunshine. Defeated, you go back into the teal room and move on to the next name. Dorothy Day dedicated her life to a revolution of the heart, and if you arrived uninitiated, a few days on Soledad Street was all it took. Can you care for those who are broken? Can you see that Terry's hand-picked bouquets are easier to carry than his racial traumas? Can you see that Bob and Dwayne's friendship keeps their vicious addictions away? Can you see that on good mornings, Rosemary's schizophrenia is at bay and she is at peace? Jim comes looking for you, this Vietnam vet who chooses to live out of his RV in the rundown Chinatown. Finds you and with tears in his eyes says, "Thank you for trying so hard. I saw you come out yelling from the sidewalk and down the street. I can see that you really care. Can you see your own brokenness? In that teal room with the black and white checkered floor, out of the sweltering Central Valley sun, you stand there listening to the loud voices and a hearty laugh echoes where you find refuge that afternoon." Thank you.
Thank you. So Milestone is the literary journal at East LA College. And a really cool story about Milestone is 8 years ago, whenever 8 years ago was, I was published in Milestone as a student for the first time ever. And I gave my first ever poetry show at the Milestone reading a year later. And I cried and I was shaking and my legs were doing all of these things that we do when we're nervous, I guess. And 8 years later now, I'm the faculty advisor of it, and it's the coolest thing ever. He was one of the students published in it. I have faculty published in it. It's a very community kind of project, and it supports the ELAC students because without ELAC and Milestone, I don't think a lot of us would be here. So our next speaker is someone who I just met today. I think I'm nice, right? I'm being nice right here. I think it's all right. And so a new friend, a new family member here with our open mics, John.
I'm short. Let me adjust. I need help. twist it both ways.
There.
That's perfect. Hello, my name is John. I hope y'all having a great evening. All right, I'm gonna just start. So, some nights, and I mean most, when I lay with you by my side, way after you. Sorry. I'm getting nervous. I'm gonna have to read it. All right. Some nights, and I mean most, when I lay with you by my side, way after, you've gone to sleep in the night. Me, I can't do the same. So what do? I stay up and cry. Feeling so guilty, overwhelmed, I never know why. 'Cause I know that I love you, it's us till the end. But I check, and I recheck again, just to make sure it's all in my head. Irrational thoughts, overthinking, my anxiety spreads. So, I'm building walls and won't let you in. Late in the night, I feel them caving in. Day after day, fighting and losing, I let my demons win. I'm so exhausted, I'm tired, I can't escape them. Me, I'm so embarrassed. I can't help these urges to leave. Constantly doubting, I can never find peace. I'm fighting myself, it's me against me. But you're caught in the middle, and it's so hard to breathe. My bad behaviors and all of my fears haunting me daily, they never disappear. I choose to ignore them, it brings you to tears. I never meant harm, but the impact's severe. I try to ignore it, I just say that I'm fine. I push them and I push them away, but they always come back at night. Just piling up, I feel so heavy inside. I deny it, but deep down I know I'm losing my mind. But what can I do? I'm so embarrassed, I'm so ashamed. Mine working against me. I feel so betrayed. I can't ask for help. I can't even explain how, what, or why I'm feeling this way. I'm stressed, I'm overthinking, I'm focusing on what we are missing and everything that's going wrong. Not what we have, my logic is gone. Knowing but questioning where I belong. One day, I'm so sure. The next, I'm so uncertain. Endless attempts to stop all of the hurting. I'm living with worry and nothing is working. I'm living with doubt when everything's perfect. That is also a song of mine. I go by Love Me Roommate, and that song is my BPD. It's about my battle of being bipolar in relationships. So it's a constant uncertainty, and check out my music. I got a new song called Wildfire, and I have stickers for y'all.
Thank you, John. What's social medias? He could type it in the, or just tell the person over here, and he'll just type it in. And so while you were speaking, something I think about a lot about art and poetry, especially, and any type of music or self-expression, is how powerful it is to us. Because the one thing that kind of drives us till we break and heals at the same time is it's the same place. It's the same thing. And it hates us and it loves us and it heals us and it breaks us and it teaches us that there's so much more to life and it teaches us that there's nothing left to live for, all at the same time. And when we put it in words and music and sounds and dance and moves and our bodies, and we kind of connect the metaphorical to the metaphysical to the physical to the broken to the fixed and everything else, we become, I think, more human and more alive. And so Nervous Go Express, that's kind of why we exist and why we like coming here, why we like having events and invite anybody. So if there's anybody here who hasn't emailed me or didn't text me or didn't talk to me and you want to sign up and you have something to share, you're getting inspired by somebody, you're kind of feeling the juices, then just find me. I'm sitting over here, but you can just kind of raise your hand. I'll see you. And then... I signed up here, but I got here late. Oh, cool. You want to go next? I can go next. Sweet. And so this somebody, and this is Erica, who is a new friend, right? Yes. New friend, a new regular, just like John, new regular, always. And so welcome, Erica. Thank you, John.
Okay, guys, so I just got a proof of my poetry book. So you could follow me at Erica Lopez 74 on IG. And so we'll just land on fate and see what poem I'm destined to read here. Okay. Okay, so this is a sonnet that I wrote because I was inspired by children who are migrant child workers. Every 6 weeks, they have to move. So they don't do good in school. They have to go from state to state. They follow the harvest. And it's like the cycle. Like, how are they going to break the cycle if they don't do good in school? So I wrote a sonnet. And one of my students, because I'm a teacher, she drew the picture on the bottom. So that was special. So here it is. Let me see. I can't see. Okay. I am just a child trying to survive, traveling every 6 weeks, finding fruit. It's the life I know, filled with low vibes, trying to appease the big men in suits. There is no way for this cycle to end. I'm flunking school, bad grades all around. I'm stuck in this future I am penned. Dad is trying his best with all he found. Trapped, no light at the end of the tunnel. Forever I am a migrant worker, trying to get out of a huge funnel. I'm needed as a family earner. I'm a peasant from the 1600s. No hope of ever achieving abundance. So, okay. Can I do one more? Are we good? All right. Okay, this one's a little long. It's a sestina. A sestina is it's a poem, and it has repeated lines. So it's kind of difficult to write. And it's called To Him. You are the same man with different names, Raul, Jason, Ismail. You are my him. You give nourishment to a starving girl. The similarities are glaring. We hang on thinking tomorrow will be different. Then one day, my him becomes addicted. I am caged by you, addicted. It's not just me. It's Carla, Raquel, Heather, crushed by this man, trapped by the promises. We prayed things will be different. He is my perpetual him. Everything is corrupt. The red flags are glaring. And it's not about drugs. You're addicted to another girl. Love poison, seduction, mesmerizing words, confined by that Fabiola girl. She is a La Belle Dame Sans Merci who makes men like you addicted. Fabiola is just like you, heartless, the truth blatantly glaring. You are at her beck and call, a toy whenever she wants a man. When she rejects you, your manhood will be wasted. What happened to my him? Now, for me, for us, things become different. You are no longer needed. I am no longer needed, discarded, like trash, different. I devoured the sleeping pills. I cracked, shattered a suicidal girl. No identity, no existence without him. Behind white walls, vexing, lying, saying I was addicted. Truly, I'm a woman with children in love with this man. But looking in the mirror, I see the disfiguration of my distorted face glaring. I could lie to the doctors, but I could not lie to my compelling eyes glaring. I wasn't the only one who fell under his spell. Nurses, secretaries, and wives would be no different. That the DNA required to love would all of a sudden grow inside this man. That we transformed ourselves into those mystic, irresistible girls. That somehow a miracle occurred and we were no longer addicted. Without warning, we no longer breathed, yearned, or lived for him. We suffered scarred arms, pumped stomachs, and poked veins alive for him. 72 hours released and faced with the disturbing task of living, glaring. So one more time, we wait, addicted, treated at the mental hospital, but nothing is different. Ashamed that I am a self-destructive girl. He never changes. He is an emotionally unavailable man. It is the him that becomes a woman's god. It is this philandering man watching as he loves that girl. I am glaring. Things are no different. I am rapaciously addicted.
Erica, tell him too. He could type it in on the screen. If anybody has your social media handles and you want Brian to, oh, that's Brian. Oh, you can't see. Brian's over there. He could type it into the YouTube comment section and to share with whoever watches it at some point in the forever future. Thank you, Erica. And so I got to do this again. Erica's proof reminded me. And Erica, at some point, and I'll talk to you after, but you made the book, you saw it online, you saw it on the screen in Word and PDF and InDesign and the file and everything, and then finally you get it shipped out and you're waiting for it, and it's not real yet, and it's in your hands, and you finally get to see it, and it's 8 ounces or 16 ounces, but it feels like 35 years, 100 years, 10,000 years. It feels like that thing that you couldn't forget forever, but it's just these little tiny pieces of paper, and it's the coolest thing. And so that proof reminded me of these 2 proofs, which come out September 15th and August 9th, and I'm going to email out and post it. Let me see if I could zoom in. I don't think this camera does that, but when I write things and I put it on the page, and this is why the page is so important, and I'm old school, I like paper, I like pens, we can rip apart and crumple and fold and save and mail and send and throw into the sky and set on fire pieces of paper. We can't do that to our insides, but we can manipulate and control this. And so writing, in my view, gives us the opportunity to master, and instead of our emotions and instead of the things in our lives control us, we get to control it. Because if I lose to a piece of paper, I got bigger problems. And so up next is my friend from back in the day, Joshua.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Joshua Castro. I'm a lyrical entertainer, poet, and the proud inheritor of the vaudeville tradition of frivolity and gaiety. Before I start, I just want to let you guys know that these past 2 years, I've released 2 lyrical albums. The first is Savages of 2020, and the second, Ravages of 21. They're both available on iTunes, Amazon, or on YouTube, so go ahead and check them out. If you like my work today, you can also check out my website, joshua-castro.com, to find more of my creative works. So first, I'm going to do a piece off my first album. It's called One Night Stand Jose, and hope you guys like it. All right. Got this reputation, known for one-night stands, Everywhere I've dated in this LA land, numbers in my phone book, many without names. Tinder lads I'm greeting, all wind up the same. Bet you'll wonder why I seem confused. I want a boyfriend, but I just get used. I'm dating one-night stand men, one-night stand bros. It's them what turned me into one-night stand Jose. First guy that I ever met through Yahoo. Once he came zipped up and told me, call you. One-night stand pricks, I'm stuck with one-night stand dicks. I never meet a single guy that's true. Even Cameron Roca, boy, I liked him a ton. Took 2 weeks to tell me he's just looking for fun. I never chose to become one-night stand Jose, but that's my destiny. I'm dating one-night stand beaus, one-night stand woes. All the guys trick me with their one-night stand pros. Text them the day after, but they're all whack. Feed me bullshit like I've lost my contacts. One-night stand stings, I'm sick of one-night stand flings. I never get the love that others do. Logged into my Grindr app, someone sent me a note. It said, you're cute, let's meet, but I'd already met that dope. I never chose to become one-night stand Jose, but that's my destiny. Oh, I never chose to become one-night stand Jose, but that's my destiny. Thank you. That was One Night Stand Jose, and it's on the interwebs. Go find it. You'll love it. Now the second piece I'm going to perform is off my new album. It's called Actin' Salty, and hopefully none of you relate to it. And here we go. Open up a social app on any day. You'll find that the people have a lot to say. Usually they're spitting out the same old rap. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, and all that crap. If you're smart, you'll stay above the noise. But if you're not, fair warning, girls and boys, your brother Jay just earned a raise. Your sister Keisha vacated for days. You're feeling awful, but that don't call for you acting salty. They're getting likes and lots of hearts. This adulation tears you apart. Their smiles are beaming. Meanwhile, you're scheming and acting salty. Classmates from your old high school, seems they've got everything. Husbands and wives and children, seems like you've got nothing. You get to typing and start to moan. They read your comments and start to groan. Their patience slickens, but you keep sticking to acting salty. The new year rings, you're all alone. Nobody texts you or even phones. Done with your mocking, they got to blocking. You acting salty. The only peeps still on your feed. You're great on Ida, coworker read. They're less than thrilling. Yourself you're killing for acting salty. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Tried out your luck with strangers. What dangers could you pose? Fan pages, groups, and threadings. Somehow kicked out of those. You look defeated, a fading ghost. Your voice deleted by more than most. You've learned your lesson, at least I'm guessing, about acting salty. And that's the end. That's all I have. I'm Joshua Castro. Look me up online. I hope you guys enjoyed my work, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Joshua. So find Joshua, joshua-castro.com, right? joshua-castro.com. You can do it right now, too. Pull out your phones. You got your phones on you anyway. Right? Isn't that the coolest thing? Whenever I text Brian, he does text me back. I'm like, dude, you're always on your phone. Like, what's going on? This is Brian, by the way. All right, so we have about 2 more people that I have on my list. If there's anybody that you know you're not on the list, I think you would know if you're on the list or not on the list. If you are inspired yet, I'll ask again at the very end. But I always want anybody, if you are interested, you could just come up here and kind of talk about your day. It doesn't have to be a poem. It doesn't have to be a song. It doesn't have to be a story. It could just be, there was traffic today again. And my radio is broken. You know, anything. It's just nice to chat. You're next anyway. And so, this guy, Matt, other Matt, third Matt. Is there anybody named Matt here? Okay, it's just second Matt today. And the first time we were here, he was here, and we met because our names are Matt, and that was awesome. And it's really cool because I think it's like it became a friendship. Right now it's just a, hey, you coming to the next one, friendship, but it has the foundation and the spark of we all met in a environment that was kind of poised to create something long term, which was really cool. And that's why art and poetry and music and everything else is so important. But Matthew, come on up.
Thank you, sir. All right, guys. Hello. How are we doing? Yes, I can't hear you. How are we doing? All right, guys. This is my 3rd time here performing. My name is Matthew. Some people call me Mr. E. I am an elementary school teacher in South Central Los Angeles. Shout out to educators and anyone here, right? Anywho, the first poem, Beware, it's melancholy, but the rest are pretty good and funny. So, anywho, so this one is titled Father's Day. Father's Day just passed. I sit and reminisce. My thoughts are focused on my grandpa Abelino de Chihuahua, Mexico. He taught me how to mow a lawn, drive a car, and how to tie a tie. I lived with him for a majority of my life. He taught me how to get up early every morning and go to work. Work hard for your family because you are the man of the family. I remember all my teenage and a few adult years sleeping on the deflated air mattress beside my younger brother while my grandpa slept on a recliner seat with his feet by my face. These are what I remember the most. My grandpa used to tell me stories of growing up during the Great Depression years and how he would have to fight other kids in the neighborhood in Mexico for rabbits to feed his family. they would attempt to kill these rabbits just to put food on their table. He put a different perspective into place. I then thought, well, maybe I don't have it as rough, but that doesn't negate my struggles. That is the same as saying, well, someone else is happier. Maybe I shouldn't be happy. My grandpa taught me valuable life lessons that I will carry with me para vida. As for my biological father, I used to watch him smoke meth with his friends as a teenager. He wasn't in my life for a majority of my life. He's mierda. For those that don't know, that's shit. Why should he start now? Anywho, he taught me what not to do, where my abuelito taught me how to treat his family and how to be a man. Rest in peace, Grandpa Abelino. So that was my first poem. Thank you, guys. So like I mentioned earlier, I am an elementary school teacher, and you best believe I teach poetry in class, right? During ELA, I teach poetry, right? I teach 4th grade. So here, since school's out, right? Here was a little. Hold on, real quick. Let me pull it up. Okay. Here was a little assignment I had my students do. So I started it off, right? So this is how it goes. So my topic, right, was wolf. So wolf, majestic and strong, running, protecting, and surveying. Gray, fluffy, brown claws, fishing, hunting, scratching, big and furry, bear, right? And this is a simple poem I used to teach my kids, right? Anywho, so with the permission from one of my students, I'm not gonna say the name or anything, and the permission from the parent, I'm gonna read, and there's nothing personal or anything, right? It's a Diamante poem. So this is an assignment I assigned, and I had each student read to the class. So, cat, fluffy, cute, plain, meowing, scratching, pet food, pet store, pet coat, pet smart, wagging, walking, running, friendly, adorable dog, all right? So my student read this, and then I asked the student, may I read this? So I read it with that tone to make it seem funnier. But anywho, so that was an assignment I had given the class. So like I said, right, I teach, so I spend majority of my time with kids. I also teach martial arts. I'm a youth martial arts instructor. So I also coach football and track. So I see kids all day, every day, right? So it would be unfair for me not to relay a few of the funny memories I have with these kids, right? Because kids are hilarious, right? So there's this, a lot of times, the kids roast each other, as they tend to say, right? Yeah, you already know, right? You already know. So there was this one time, and you know, as a professional, right, they say, you know, you're supposed to not laugh. I laugh. I don't care. I laugh. That stuff is funny. It's funny, dude. It's funny. How can you not, man? I'm human. Right? So anywho, so one student tells another student, your teeth are so yellow, it looks like you got cheddar slices on your teeth, right? And I was dying when I heard that, guys. And then the other student fires back, and then he relays another message, and he says, oh yeah, the tooth fairy saw your tooth, and he thought it was a block of cheese. He didn't even want to take it. I mean, how can you not laugh at these kids, right? But anyways, I'm on YouTube, Incredible Mr. E, if you want to follow me. My Instagram name is Majestic Wolfman. Shout out to you guys for being here, right? And much love, guys. Peace.
Thank you, Matthew. All right, we have one more speaker, unless anybody else wants to sign up. Anybody over there? No, are you sure? All right, all good. So a little bit after hearing Matt, your work, and I think about family, I think about kids, and family. I think is equally complicated and confusing. And what do we do without them? But then there are some of them you're like, what would I do with you? And it's weird, but it's fun at the same time. And kids, I have a little story about kids. Someone asked me recently, hey, do you like babies? Like when are you gonna have babies? And I was like, when they're over there. And that's my kid's story. Other people's babies are cool. Just like keep them far away. All right, our final speaker of the evening. Oh, no, wait, we do have one more speaker. Richard, do you want to go last? Brenda? All right, Brenda just walked in. I saw Brenda. All right, so give it up for Brenda.
Hey everyone. Has this been a heavy night, a light night? I know a lot of shit's been going on.
Do both.
Do a little bit. I'll do one that's a little of both, maybe. Hey guys, I am Brenda Vaca. Good to see everyone's beautiful faces. I'm sorry I missed so much. I'll be watching the replay on YouTube. This one's called Rosario, and it's probably one of my oldest poems in this collection, Riot of Roses. Trigger warnings. After the abortion, I went into a Berkeley exile, returned to the peaceful streets of my college town, an island of liberal stagnation. Taking the 51 to East Oakland to see my sister and nieces was the real factor in my education. Happy in the bubble with my shades on, no powdered milk or government cheese, a haven for the brokenhearted after the meanness of Los Angeles streets. I followed the flow of spirit to Holy Hill. A seminary education awaited me, surrounded by priests, pastors, and monks. Wrapped around my left hand was this rosary. The sun found its way to the center of my palm. Light caught on each bead, red, flashing blue. My hands did not know the contours of its features. It was yet a new thing, not even a tool. As I looked at it and felt it, filled me with a secret joy. I am a little girl with a toy I should not have. This is how it began. I was this girl, born again, a woman quietly searching for a hollowed end. How many times did I write about it? My family's break with the Catholic faith and the emptiness that coincided. I often felt like I was on the outside looking in, separated by a chain link fence. While familia were in catecismo or at prayer camp, I was raised on the outskirts of white, middle-class spiritual bread. My father hates for me to write it and point fingers. No mencionas nombres, he warns. Catholic guilt, that old cliche, takes over and chokes the words already said. Mommy braces herself, digs her heels in the ground, claims with indignation that we are better off. Backwards is nowhere to go when you've been baptized by Holy Ghost fire. Is it possible that they're both right and both wrong? When I became a Methodist, I joined a historically black congregation, Shattuck Avenue United Methodist Church. I felt more at home and revived with the singing and the dancing than the up and down of the midnight mass at Newman Hall. Padre threw open the doors of the church after he preached from his motorized scooter, a language I understood. I walked up to the altar, said yes to Spirit with my whole heart, but my time there did not last. Body of Christ, cup of salvation, well, it's been a mighty long time. Dígame, where do I belong? How unconditional is Jesus' love? How unconditional is that love in me? When did that become the barometer for my people? I've been to so many churches to speak of, yet belong to none where I can just be me. So pen and paper became my pulpit. Is that the way it's supposed to be? This poem is full of questions with no answers coming quickly. A question for each bead that touches skin. Is that how I begin? After everything is done, will I see the process diagrammed with my pen? Because my right hand is a slave to this writing life, a bridge to the promised land. It is no easy venture to carry your pulpit in your pocket and in your hand. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Brenda. And everybody purchase a copy of Riot of Roses. Find it. Brenda will tell you. Anywhere books are sold, so go get one. Go get two. Read one and save one. Or no, you know what? Get three. Read one, save one, and gift one. There it is. All right, so now we have our final speaker. And again, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Richard, you're up.
My name's Richard Villegas, and it must be teacher night because I was also a teacher for a long time. So this is a story about my teaching experience. It's a little long, so bear with me. It's called Walking Children in Nature. I was a kindergarten preschool teacher for 20 years, and because us teachers love a corny pun, I often said I suffered from bouts of claustrophobia. Claustrophobia is the fear of being trapped, suffocating really, inside a small classroom with 20 plus students for hours on end. Teaching can sometimes feel like being put in solitary confinement, but with little demons that only you can see and hear. They do things like incessantly repeat your name, Mr. Villegas, Mr. Villegas, Mr. Villegas, Mr. Villegas, Mr. Villegas. I like my job well enough, but I also had the need to sometimes be out in the world in order to remind myself that I was still something of a free human being. My go-to remedy for claustrophobia was field trips. I was the king of field trips. I would make a field trip out of walking to the mailbox. I took any excuse to escape the cage of public schools, which unfortunately look more and more like Guantanamo Bay detention facility every decade. I once literally walked across the street with my class to visit the Food for Less supermarket. We toured the produce section and the dairy refrigerators as if we were visiting galleries at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. The store manager offered us free oranges, and he let me stand behind the cash register and speak into the PA system. It was an exhilarating school day, not at school. I'd rather be out in the world with my kiddos than trapped inside of some stuffy classroom working on handouts and administering tests. We lived in Los Angeles, after all, an exciting cosmopolitan metropolis. Why not be out and about, callejeros callejando, vagando por el mundo? But every year, the school district seemed to be making going on field trips increasingly difficult, especially for the very young students. Leaving campus with a pack of 5-year-olds was strongly discouraged. There was countless forms to fill out and multiple levels of permission to seek, and money and transportation and food and chaperones to requisition. The paperwork every time I wanted to leave the campus felt like preparation for a lawsuit. However, I could almost empathize with the school district's concerns. From their point of view, field trips were nothing more than potential death traps and sources of expensive liability. I'm sure district lawyers can tell scary stories about kids and teachers getting lost, injured, or even killed on school excursions. A student drowning at the beach, a brat knocking over a piece of art, someone left behind at a nature reserve, bus accidents, students stealing from gift shops. Once, a pregnant chaperone miscarried her baby in the bathroom of the museum we were visiting. We had to call the ambulance. And admittedly, I lost my 4-year-old student Jonathan 2 times in the same year, once at the zoo and another time at the Natural History Museum. But because it was only ever happened to him twice, I blamed him. He wasn't the brightest crayon in the box. You'd think that he would have learned to stay with the group after the first time I found him alone crying with the giraffes, but he didn't. Aside from the panic of losing that one kid, to me, field trips were mostly therapeutic and fun. One weekend in the winter of 2003, my kindergarten colleagues, Ms. McNillis and Ms. Montes, and I went hiking in the San Gabriel Mountains. We were on a reconnaissance mission for an upcoming kindergarten hiking trip. It was all my idea. By my 4th year of teaching, I had grown ambitious, no longer satisfied with easy humdrum walks to the local fire station, despite the hunky firefighters. I wanted to up-level and take my 5-year-olds on mountain adventures like I was some do-re-mi singing nun twirling around the Swiss Alps. In my case, I had to settle for the foothills of Altadena. Even though I had modest experience being out in the woods, I felt pretty confident in leading a little village of children and parents into the forest. I hiked a lot on the weekends, and after all, what could be so difficult about walking children in nature? On that Sunday, my colleagues and I had a leisurely amble surveying the scenic creek which zigzagged and babbled down the arroyo. Shady and scenic, the path was lovely. We easily made it to the campsite destination, noting the location of an outhouse and picnic areas. We estimated that it would take an hour and a half to lead nearly 60 children there. In retrospect, the fact that Southern California was supposedly experiencing a moderate El Nino weather pattern should have given us pause about even considering a winter trip in the hills. But we're Southern Californians. What do we know about winter? On January 31st, 2003, the Los Angeles Times read, "This has been the warmest January on record in Los Angeles, and despite the El Nino condition that has led to many forecasters predicting a wet winter, it's been one of the driest too." That day, us 3 teachers left feeling pretty prepared for our upcoming adventure. That school year, my entire kindergarten class was Latino, except for Michael the Filipino. I didn't call him Michael the Filipino, but he was Filipino. Michael blended nicely into the collection of little brown cuties in my class. I loved them all. Franklin was a little weird and smelled like pee all the time, but I liked him too. The really special thing about this class was the parents. I was just about to turn 30 years old, and the parents were around my same age. We were all young people then, together, peers, contemporaries, except that I was an unmarried single gay man who spoke horrendous Spanish, and they were mostly monolingual Spanish-speaking immigrants. Our communication wasn't always pretty, but we managed. In fact, it seemed to me that they were so comfortable that they were always testing my authority. Stuart's father was this tall, handsome Peruvian man who bristled whenever I critiqued his son. He towered over me and would stand with his arms crossed, frowning whenever I explained why Stuart was misbehaving. He didn't receive bad news too well, and he often made me nervous. Then there was this industrious crew of dedicated Central American mothers who rarely took no for an answer. When I told them the district didn't allow cap and gown graduations for kindergartners, they organized their own ceremony off campus at a local park and took glamour shots of their children in mortarboards and holding fake diplomas. Then, after I said they shouldn't do that, they still gave me signed copies of the photos as if to say, "Here, bitch, what do you think of that?" Whenever I said no to these people, they just looked for ways around me. Nevertheless, I admired them. They were intimidating, but I was secretly proud of them as being expectant of receiving a good education for their children, as any parent would in a wealthier, whiter neighborhood. In the 3 weeks after that exploratory hike with my colleagues, El Nino showed up and showed out. The Los Angeles Times on February 28, 2003 read, "Rain soaks Southland and more storms due next week." Although I noted the storms, obviously, I didn't think about how the storms might impact the trail that we were to walk on. Water falling from the sky, what does it have to do with my field trip? Nothing, as far as I was concerned. The morning of the field trip started off on the wrong foot. I made prior arrangements with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which lay adjacent to the hiking trails, to utilize their employee parking lot as a drop-off spot for my bus. As soon as the school bus parked, shoom, I raced off with my class in tow, immediately jetting off to the trailhead. I was pumped to get the day started. Let's go, go, go was my attitude. However, I was hiking so fast that I didn't see the JPL security vehicles approach the bus and detain the 2 other teachers. Oops. While Ms. McNillis and Ms. Montes answered the guard's interrogation and attempted to prove that we had permission to park there, I was well on my way, none the wiser about their detention. We didn't have cell phones then, so they couldn't message me for help. The theme of the field trip was stick to it, perseverance. The theme was important because we teachers had to academically justify our field trips to the administration. On the request forms, we had to write down exactly how the field trip was connected to the curriculum. We couldn't just have fun, God forbid. We needed to always be learning something. I argued that we were going on a difficult hike in the woods in order to experience perseverance. I received both permission and a bus. When my group of students and parents reached the first river crossing, we soon discovered that what had been a serene, babbling creek 3 weeks prior was now like a whitewater river rafting river. Okay, maybe it wasn't that dramatic, but apparently the recent rains had swollen up the water. The calm little creek I saw before was doing a real good impression of one of those kayaking adventure rivers where people wear yellow life preservers and fall in. The stepping stones that had been in place weeks prior were underwater. But we persevered. We found other rocks and continued on because that was our theme. We ended up crisscrossing the river multiple times, but as we progressed, I started to get a sinking feeling because crossing seemed to be getting more difficult. There was so much more water now. The parent chaperones came from all over Latin America. There were mothers from El Salvador and Guatemala, Nicaragua, a father from Peru, Mexicanos and Centroamericanas. We were a big old bola of Latin Americanness. I didn't really know their specific immigration journeys, but I don't imagine most Latinos arrive to the US without some heartache and trauma and legal ambiguity. Also, I believe for many of them, this was maybe their first experience of American schooling. They were Latin American parents with American kindergartners who now dance the hokey pokey, pledge allegiance to a different colored flag, celebrated Halloween and Martin Luther King Day, and went on field trips in a Purple Mountains Majesty type of landscape. As the water got wider and more turbulent, did I have their complete confidence, or was I coming off as some dumbass leading their kids to danger? Eventually, our group arrived at a river crossing which seemed much more flooded and wider than at any other point. I stood on the rocky bank, hypnotized by the whooshing water, trying to figure out what rocks or fallen trees to use to get across. I kept trying to figure out a safe stepping stone patterns in my head as if I was playing chess with the river, but I don't know how to play chess. I was taking too long for sure. Behind me, I could sense a wall of impatient eyes, stares lined with hard eyeliner and dramatic eyebrows. I had this crowd of parents, these particular parents, whom I wanted to impress with my leadership skills, standing, waiting for me to do something, anything. But now they were hungry and tired, and the kids would soon need to use the restroom. I was the one who had brought everyone here, but now I just hemmed and hawed, stalling for the next move. Suddenly, finally, I guess Carlos's mother couldn't take it anymore. She shouted, "Ya, soy Coyota." We all turned toward her. Then she grabbed her son under her arms like he was a large package, stepped straight into the cold, rushing water, which came up to her calves, and waded her way bravely across the river. A coyote is, of course, a wild canine, but it's also what you call a person who smuggles migrants across the US-Mexican border. We all laughed at her off-color joke, but more importantly, she broke the stalemate between us and the river. Everyone followed her lead. Suddenly, we were all coyotes. We were all smugglers. Everyone grabbed a kid, the men grabbed two at a time, and all of us Latinos, and Michael the Filipino, of course, stepped into the river as if we were a caravan invading the United States, smiling, laughing, joyous at our pretend rebellion. You know how white people love to recreate or reenact the Civil War battles? We were reenacting millions of times our people have crossed the Rio Grande. I picked up my student Miguel, held him in my arms, and stepped into the water just like Carlos's mother. I'm a coyote too, I thought. Ándale, adelante. I was one of them now, included in the pack, even though I'm not an immigrant, and nor are my parents, and even my grandparents were born in 1920s Los Angeles. I was feeling quite the revolutionary. However, as I held Miguel in both my arms, I fell into the river backwards, as if I had slipped on a banana peel right into a baptism. There was a big man splash as I landed hard in the cold river. Parents rushed to my rescue. I handed Miguel off to them. He was fine, laughing, pretty much still dry. I uprighted myself as quickly as I could to save myself from the cold wetness and the hot embarrassment. I remember looking back into the river and seeing my stupid wallet float by as I regained my standing. Jesus fucking Christ, Mr. Vegas, you idiot. There was laughing and snickering and surprise. The kids acted it as if I had planned some crazy antics solely for their entertainment. There's Mr. Villegas being all crazy. I was soaked and so cold. My legs, my ass, my back, my torso were all wet. I was the only one who had fallen in. As we hiked the rest of the way to the picnic area, I made sopping wet sounds. My jeans felt heavy. I tried not to shiver, so obviously, but I was so very cold. Our class was soon joined by the other classes who successfully navigated the crossings without incident. I told my colleagues what happened. They told me about being detained by JPL security, and one of their kids had peed on herself. But we had all made it. The rest of the children played by the river, ate sandwiches and chips, tossed pebbles, collected sticks, chased each other, sought out squirrels and spiders. We held our breath when we used the outhouse. Then we cleaned up our mess and packed up to leave. The trek back to the bus was uneventful. I was uncomfortably drenched the entire time, trying to act normal. It was one of the best field trips I ever had. I know this because everyone, including the parents, fell fast asleep on the bus ride back to school. The best field trips always put everyone to sleep. In September of 1804, the Lewis and Clark expedition encountered some never-before-seen wild dogs that they called prairie wolves. Of course, the Spanish colonizers down south in Mexico had long before encountered coyotes and used the version of the Nahuatl word coyote for them. The indigenous people of America, like the Navajo, the Crow, the Shoshone, the Mexica, knew the canine predator very well. Coyotes had been lurking around Tenochtitlan and North American villages centuries before the United States or Canada or Mexico even existed. The problem was that when the Europeans arrived, they had no mythology, no stories attached to coyotes in the same way they had for the foxes, wolves, and the bears of their fairy tales and myths. These canines were strange new animals to them, so the colonizers quickly defaulted to disparaging coyotes as soulless scavengers and nuisances, as threats to their flocks and sheep and cattle and to civilization itself. Mark Twain described coyotes as sorry-looking skeletons covered in wolfskins. He called them allegories of want. The U.S. government created a variety of poisons and schemes to exterminate all wolves and coyotes from America. They successfully killed off the gray wolf, but they never succeeded in exterminating the coyote. In fact, coyotes ended up spreading beyond their original territory of the Southwest. Today, they can be found as far away as New York, Florida, and Alaska. The indigenous mythologies, however, tell us that a different story about this resilient animal. They talk about Old Man Coyote, the deity that created North America. He makes mischief. He organizes the theft of fire from the gods and survives ordeals by using his wits. Coyote is a trickster, a jokester, smart and fun-loving. He's also irresponsible, lecherous, a rebel, and a lascivious prankster. That one winter in 2003 when Carlos's mother took the lead and announced, "Soy Coyota," and we all picked up the children and crossed the river, Old Man Coyote's spirit was there. He was playing his pranks, making a joke out of a country perpetually trying to stop something as integral to being human as migration, as movement. Nobody can ever stop the impulse in all of us to keep pushing on, to keep moving, to be out and about in this spectacular world, uncaged, uncontained, not wanting to stay obediently inside our countries and our classrooms. It occurred to me that that was always what the parents were there for, not to judge or thwart me, but to help me move their children forward in this great act of perseverance that's been ongoing forever. The crossing of rivers and deserts and highways, the handing off of children to one another, everyone moving to get to the other side of some obstacle, a gate, a wall, a fence, a river, a border. That field trip took place over 20 years ago. The kids are all in their 20s or older now. Some of them might be parents of their own. Maybe they have college degrees, maybe not, I don't know. I hope some of them are still alive and well. I don't know whatever became of any of them. Franklin, Carlos, Stuart, Miguel, Michael. The accomplishment that day was that we were here together in this land, in that wilderness, hiking, walking, crossing rivers, lunching upon boulders, spying water striders and salamanders, birds and stink bugs. Me and my kids and their parents too spent one whole school day wild, outside, free, unburdened in this here United States, where Carlos's mother made a joke about being a coyote, moved us all across the river swollen by a weather system called the Little Boy, and Mr. Villegas, he fell into the river, had to return home with soggy shoes, soaked pants, and a wet back. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that story reminds me, or, it's a very, very good telling of resilience. And just like a lot of us, these two new books, August 9th and September 15th, are stories of perseverance, hope, and resilience and strength. And so get your copies, stay tuned, connect with us, follow us, email us, and just like so many of us are resilient and powerful and strong and hungry and hopeful, these events and our community, we're not going anywhere. And so thank you for showing up today. I'm glad to see all your faces, and I hope to see you next time.